Hello and welcome to my overview of my science notebook for EDL 443. In this video I'm going to be showing you the scientific notebook that we've done throughout the whole course and how I organized it, how I took notes from my science journal, and what I learned from it. So here we go. So let's get started. Here's the front cover of my science notebook. I just put a little picture of some young scientists, some young students in there. And when I open my notebook, the first thing that we see is my table of contents. And so I have broken down my table of contents and pages of my notebook. From right here starting, I have the introduction to my science notebook, and then I have all the units broken down into different sections and different pages. I also included which units I taught lessons in. And so in Unit 2 I taught Lesson 1, and Unit 6 I taught Lesson 2, and in Unit 7 I taught Lesson 3. Within my science notebook, I also included my final thoughts of the actual course and notebook and some resources. So the first page of my science notebook is my introduction, and I really wanted to include an introduction because I know keeping this scientific journal or notebook in my classroom or just within my other materials, I would go back and I would want to know exactly what this notebook was for and what I used it for. And so that's why I included an introduction. Basically just says what I did throughout the semester and what's included in here. So the next thing is just an overview of each unit. And so I divided my units into these little plastic dividers, these see-through dividers. I included what unit it is, what the name of the unit was, a small picture, and then I also included the objectives of the unit, just so that I could remind myself and could read about, oh, this is what I learned throughout this unit and this is what I needed to do, just to remind myself as I look back at this notebook. Okay, so each unit has a similar layout. I had video reflections for each unit. So the bold types were the videos that I watched in my reflections. I didn't want to include a link just because this is a paper notebook and I know I wouldn't be able to click on the link and things like that. So I just bolded it in a bold font, and I just put my basic notes and reflections there. Throughout this notebook, I also used clip art as visuals instead of drawings. I just found it was easier for me personally because I am not a very good drawer. And so just putting on clip art on there and putting visuals that I could still see and still read are a lot more useful to me than drawings are. So that's why I have some clip arts there. And so this is the one for Unit 1. Okay. So here is Unit 2. It's a similar layout to the other one. Again, I have my objectives on the sheet. And here's my video reflections for Unit 2. I included some examples that we were shown throughout the semester, and as well as some diagrams. This one is connections between practices and the Nevada Next Generation Standards, Common Core, Math, and ELA. In addition to this unit, I also included my lesson plan that I did for my first lesson. I wanted to include this because I know looking back, I would want to know what lesson I did that time, and if I wanted to do this in another future classroom or with other students, I could just pull it out and read what I did and kind of just modify it. And so that's why I included it in here. It's all stapled. And then comes my observations and reflections. within this unit. So lesson 1, we did teaching process skills and vocab building. My observations are right here. I included what I observed before and what I observed during the lesson. And for my reflection, that's what I put after. And so that is how my observations and reflection page looks like. Okay, so now we're going on to Unit 3. Okay, Unit 3 was a small unit, so we just did video reflections. I added a graphic organizer, well, not really, it's like a graphic visual that was given to us in our agenda and outcomes. So I just included that in there because I thought it was very helpful. And then I also included some screenshots of the videos that we watched just so that I could remind myself of what we learned about and what I watched. Okay, so this is Unit 4, Exploring Science Inquiry, and this one had a longer list of objectives, which I really liked. And the same thing, I included the same clip art that was given to us in our agenda and outcomes. Okay. And then I included a table for, we learned about inquiry, different types of inquiry, and how we could use them in our classroom. And so I just included a table right there. Here is Unit 5. Okay, and here's my video reflections for Unit 5. And then again, some clip arts from the videos and from our agenda outcomes. Unit 6, we were doing elaborate and science inquiry. This one had a longer list of objectives and outcomes, and this was a really long unit, so I have a couple things in here that I will go through. So the first thing is my video reflections for Unit 6. And so I have some clip arts here, and then again my bolded words were from the videos that I watched rather than putting the link. Okay, so we discussed about strategies, different learning strategies and question strategies to use, different engagement strategies in the classroom. Okay, and then also we did a I think we did the tic-tac-toe assignment. And so I also included, that's actually what I included as well here in my science notebook. So right here was the tic-tac-toe assignment and what I had written down for that in my notebook. So here is that. Okay, and this was my second lesson plan for our second inquiry lesson. It is a little bit different than the first one because we were given a different layout. But I really wanted to put it in here because she really emphasized putting color coding strategies into our lessons. And so I really liked this lesson personally, the way it was I had taught and I had planned it. So I wanted to include it in here. And then again, my lesson reflections are right there. So my observations during and then my reflections, what I thought about after. Okay. So here's Unit 7, some more visuals, some more notes, video reflections, and then our last inquiry lesson plan for using the 5E model. This one is stapled. And then my last lesson reflection for that lesson. Okay. Unit 8, we were adapting in science inquiry. We were learning about differentiated classrooms. Here is my video reflection page for that, and it cuts into the next page. So I now have another big visual right there. And then we learned about differentiation. So I have some notes about differentiation there. Okay. And so the last page of my science notebook are my final thoughts. So this was the page where we just reflected upon our science journal and how we learned across the whole course. And so I really enjoyed putting this science notebook and or journal together. I thought it was a really fun and engaging way just to put all my thoughts and ideas onto um, paper. Even though I do prefer to type my notes, I found it just easier, and I just found it like so quick to upload them and get feedback on them and things like that. So I would definitely implement a science journal into my own classroom to keep my students updated weekly or even daily about what we're learning in our science classroom, so that they could go back and they could reflect on what they learned days before or a week before and things like that, and we can have some discussions. Okay, and then the last page is my resources page. So in this section, I included resources that we were given in the course, and also what I could use further on, and I know I will use. And so the first thing that I included at the end were different links and different resources for inquiry lessons. So I put the lists, and I try to get it more towards like K through 12, K through 2, just because that's what I'll be teaching next year. But I try to keep it through K through 12 also, just in case, like if I move around a grade level in the future, I have this resource. And so I did 3 pages of this. Okay. And then I also included the PDF file where we learned about anticipatory sets and hooks, and how we're able to implement them. And so I included that for me because these hooks and these engagement strategies were new to me, so I know I want to keep using them. I also included strategies for student engagement because I'm teaching K through a grade level through K through 12, K through 2. I really struggled at the beginning of my teaching last year with engagement strategies. I wasn't sure which ones were available and which ones were effective. So I really am grateful that we had this resource, and so I wanted to include that in there. And then the last thing I included in here were assessment strategies. Just because, just as we want to engage our students, we also want to assess them, and so I included the different ways that we're able to assess them and creatively in our science classrooms. So that was my science notebook overview for you. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll also include the file for you so that you can actually go through the file and see everything that's on there. The only thing that won't be on there is the resources page, because I had printed all that individually and put it into my book. But I really hope you enjoyed the overview of my science notebook, and I am excited yet sad that this class is ending because this was actually a pretty fun class for me. So thank you for watching.